Back in April I announced the Speedmaster Professional, the classic Moonwatch, was imminent for replacement in the summer of 2020 after a tip-off from my local authorised dealer. Through 2019 we'd seen special editions with the new coaxial manual Y movement in the Apollo 11 and the Moonshine Gold 50th anniversary pieces. And also in the early part of 2020 with the 321 movement reimagined in the Ed White CK2998. We'll never know if the pandemic was a factor in delaying the launch of the replacement Professional model, and we were lucky to get the Silver Snoopy 50th anniversary model out in time. But recently, things are starting to move on, and we could have our first peek at the new model, now thought to land in January next year. I'm Andy, and welcome to the English Watch. The forums and Facebook groups have been discussing the recent changes to the Omega website, including the first Omega in space being discontinued and other changes around the way the website looks. A vast improvement in my eyes, as Omega have stopped labelling so many models Moonwatch. This range is now reserved for the Professional range only, as it should be. But this week has also seen a few leaked pictures of what looks like an Omega press briefing, detailing what could be the replacement model we've all been anticipating. It's clear that the existing Speedmaster Professional has been made in sufficient quantities, so still available and discounts are still to be had. And it's good to see that used prices are still pretty stable, but may rise a touch when availability dries up. So go and get one before the new version lands and it goes more expensive. Now don't forget, if you like these videos, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. As always, I'll try to get back to your comments if I can, so please engage in the comments section below. Now the current version with the Hess-like crystal has been around since 1997 with the 1861 movement, with only a few updates to the bracelet and clasp along the way. Omega are still proud of the flight qualified by NASA status, and this still gives the watch some relevance as a modern tool watch, even if today's astronauts are more likely to be seen wearing the Skywalker X33 these days. After the original tests performed on the Speedmaster that won it flight status back in 1965, NASA retested in 1972 and then in 1978 for the Space Shuttle missions. I'm unsure if the crew of the ISS still rely on the trusty Speedy, and I hear it's no longer part of the astronauts' kit. But with a planned trip back to the moon in 2024, Omega must be foaming at the mouth to be involved. So let's take a look at these images and what they tell us. Now I'm glad to see there are some original design cues returning that were on the original reference ST105.12. That was the model worn by Neil Armstrong on Apollo 11. But it's also fair to say that the current generation design has been pretty stable since the early 70s and remains relevant. I'll break the discussion down into sections so you can pore over the details. And don't forget, this may be fake news, but it looks pretty good to me and we know it's imminent. And for all those speedy enthusiasts, don't forget to pick me up on any details I may have either missed or misunderstood. Those are my favourites. Okay, looking at some general details then. This watch comes with Omega's 5-year warranty, as all its watches do since mid-2018. It will be supplied in the special Moonwatch presentation box that has been in service since 2014 to mark the 50th anniversary of the Professional model. It's likely to come with additional straps, but it's unclear if the box itself will be changed. I'm hoping for something similar to the Silver Snoopy 50th box. This had some cool features, including a nice travel case. Okay, dive into the case back. Well, this has remained unchanged since about 1971, but it now has the words "Flight qualified by NASA for all human, not manned, space missions." Now if it's good enough for Star Trek, I'm on board. Now clearly Omega have some agreement with NASA to be able to display the text, so I'd be interested in any feedback on how this is maintained, how they still flight qualified. The addition of coaxial master chronometer alongside the Professional Moonwatch text and an additional bevel that eats into the case opening holes as per the Snoopy 50th on the case back. Omega are using the same steel case as on the Silver Snoopy, and this is inspired by the ST105.012. I understand the watch to be a little shorter lug to lug, but not really clear on where the other differences are, and I assume they're minor. The watch maintains a 42mm diameter case, taking into account the crown and pusher guards, but the overall case height appears to be shorter at 13.18mm, down from 14, which is good news. It looks like my main issue with the watch has been improved by extending the crown, so hopefully this watch will finally be a pleasure to wind. We also have shorter, flatter form pushers that may also aid access to the crown. Now Omega are also carrying forward the classic Hess-like model as you'd expect, as it remains the enthusiast's choice. Looking to the bezel, I'm sure when Omega made the various refinements to the Speedmaster through the early years, the position of a dot relative to a number on the tachymeter was not high on the priority list. However, this little dot sat above the number 90 was moved to the 2 o'clock position, with the move to the ST145.02269 before man had even landed on the moon, and that was when the 861 movement replaced the legendary 321. Now roll on a few years and this little feature becomes an obsession with collectors. It occasionally makes an appearance on the odd special editions, most recently the Apollo 11 and the Silver Snoopy 50th, but has now come back for good as part of an overall heritage package. Looking at the dial, just like the Ed White, the step dial is back after it disappeared around 1975. This was probably part of a cost reduction exercise also, and this is great because it's the basis of the classic style and would be missed otherwise. Another victim of the move to the 861 movement in 1969 was the removal of the applied Omega logo, which was replaced with a pad printed logo, all clearly part of this wider cost exercise. And this has now returned, and you can see the narrow logo is present. Looking at the remaining printed hour markers, it doesn't look like faux patina has been used as it is on the Ed White, as it refers to white superluminova with green emission as the current model has. One small feature I have noticed is the kite-shaped balance to the chrono hand, last seen on the 145.012. This was flattened off in later models, maybe due to cost or perhaps a new hand supplier, but a nice detail to see and much appreciated. Onto the bracelet. Now I'm quite excited about this one. Look what happened to Rolex recently, where they upsized their Submariner bracelet to gain a few millimetres around the lugs to cheat the form. Omega have addressed the issue with the existing bracelet introduced in 2014 and its lack of taper going back to a tried and tested design, similar to the Moonshine Gold 50th edition. Today the taper goes from 20mm to 18mm, and this is out of character with the vintage look of the watch. It's also not that comfortable. This new watch now has quite a taper going from 20mm at the lugs down to 15mm at the clasp, and this should give a nice comfort boost as well as bringing some elegance to the overall look. Now it's unclear what the clasp looks like, but wouldn't it be nice to get on the fly adjustment? Come on Omega, make it happen. Right, strap. So Omega likes to offer options with their watches, none more so than the strap and bracelet choice. The prior version had a leather strap alongside the steel bracelet. Now this new version appears to have a plain black fabric strap with a leather liner very similar to that of the 2015 Silver Snoopy, but with a black leather stitch instead of white. This would be supplied with Omega's excellent deployant clasp and with a taper from 20mm to 18mm. Now the non-metal version normally commands a lower price point, but as always it's advisable to buy the bracelet version and get the fabric as an accessory, especially if you already have the clasp in your collection. That's a lot of ground to cover, but I think we're done on the external features. Now let's look under the hood. The run-out model has been powered by the 1861 base caliber since 1997, an enhancement on the 861 movement. Now this watch takes the latest iteration of the Lemania base caliber reference 3861 and comes with METAS certification over and above cost to deliver 0 to +5 seconds per day accuracy. Omega is pushing coaxial master chronometer calibers into all its watches, except a few quartz models still on offer. On top of that, the watch now has incredible levels of anti-magnetism, having been tested to 15,000 Gauss, thanks to the SI14 silicon balance spring. Now this is still a manual wind chronograph, and that's quite rare these days outside the high horology brands. It has 26 joules, runs at 21,600 vibrations per hour, and has a 50-hour power reserve. Movement finishing for the Saphhire Sandwich adds to the rhodium plating with Geneva waves, gold-plated engravings, decorated chronograph mechanism with polished beveled edges, making sure we have a nice view through the back. So going on to reference numbers and price, you're thinking all of these refinements will help Omega justify elevating the price significantly. But looking at the headline prices on these documents quoted in Swiss francs, it appears that we're going to be looking at around 10 to 15% depending on the model. So I'd be guessing the Hess-like model with the steel bracelet will go from its existing price of £4,260 to around £4,900. Now this is still a great value watch if there is such a thing, and given time I'm sure discounts will be available. Looking at the reference numbers, you can see that the first numbers moved from 311 to 310, designating a new model line, and puts it in the same family as the Silver Snoopy. You'll also see the fourth digit change from 30 to 50 to denote the move to a coaxial movement. So in conclusion, my main takeout is it looks like Omega want to distinctly differentiate the previous generation That was a working watch through the later Apollo and Space Shuttle missions and bring it back to the original USP of the first watch on the Moon. It's nearly 50 years since we walked on the Moon, and Omega will always be the first when Neil and Buzz made that giant leap. What they have done here is similar to the Ed White 321 edition, a reimagining of the original, but in this instance, and with the new movement, a more affordable, everyman watch that you can look up in a book, like the Moonwatch only, and see the lineage. Now this is a watch for the people, and it's good to see Omega not looking to elevate the price point too much and keep it a volume piece in the range. Well done Omega, and I look forward to getting my hands on the real thing. So now the big question, is this now a more attractive proposition to me than the Ed White, my current grail? I think with the heritage dial, that lovely tapering bracelet and a keen price, I could be tempted by the Saphhire Sandwich version. Already being a proud Headlight owner, this would be a perfect combination with the Ed White still just out of reach. I'll keep you posted. So don't forget, give this a thumbs up if you enjoyed this exploration of what could be fake news, and subscribing is a great way to ensure you don't miss out on future episodes. Anyway, I'm Andy, this has been an English Watch, take care and I'll see you soon. Bye for now, and live long and prosper. And live long and prosper. I don't know how to do it.